to Beyond the Ring, a podcast that covers all things in the stock show industry from the informative to the insane, starring Ryan Rash.
Adulthood is trying to tolerate people long enough to not get the legal system involved.
And Dale Hummel.
Yes, they were stored next to my Corvette in a securely locked garage.
Now on with the show.
Welcome to Beyond the Ring. This is Dale Hummel, along with Ryan Rash.
Hello, hello, hello.
Ryan, it's a beautiful evening here in Illinois. How's the world of Texas?
Well, right now I'm in Amarillo because I'm judging the Palmer County Fair all week. Well, it's 3 days, not all week. But Freon is a very small town, so I'm in Amarillo, and the weather's actually nice. I have some issues. I think I've either broken my finger or my knuckle. Showing at the Fort Worth Open show yesterday, we had a little heifer calf that won a class and I was leading, showing her, and when I tried to stop her for the judge to talk her, she did not want to stop, so I kind of hit her real hard, and I think she did more damage to me than I did to her. But yeah, it's not good, and I did not know that one finger could screw up your whole life, but one finger can literally ruin your life.
But you have seen other people do this, and it never ends well for the person, ever.
I'm not recommending it, but Dale, it was either get run off the gate by the heifer or beat her in the nose.
Got it. I don't have a lot of current events. The only thing I have is documents, and more documents. That's it. That's all I got.
So what I don't understand about Biden and his document crisis is these people. And I'm not just talking about him. I'm talking about everybody surrounding him, all of his family, all of his advisors, everybody that's on staff. This has to be God's greatest, most moronic, stupidest, dumbest idiots ever put together. Because, somebody had to know that Mr. Biden took the documents that he wasn't supposed to take because A, number one, you're not supposed to do it. B, number two, there's no way he can get out of this because as vice president, he could not declassify any of the documents like Trump is claiming the ones that he took. He declassified them all. So he is literally screwed. But the problem where they're really stupid, I mean the dumbest, is they went hardcore, just out there. Trump just tore Trump a new one over the Mar-a-Lago raid and the documents and all this other shit when this man had them in 3 different locations, non-secure locations.
Do you think the Joe Biden of things being at his age and not coherent and having issues, do you think he just forgot he had them?
Dude,
that's why he would go so hard after Trump?
Somebody knew they had them. Somebody. And so when this comes up, don't you think we're well, sir, maybe we might go a little soft on this because we kind of have some documents that we're probably not supposed to have. So, we don't want to look like the world's biggest asshats and hypocrites in the world. So maybe, not just make this a bloodbath.
You would think that. I think that they believe they're so far above the rest that they just don't care. They don't think.
I think they're
those
literally
things
the
apply.
dumbest people on the face of the planet. I'm not kidding.
I'm
from their policy, all that stuff. But this is it. This shows the true stupidity of the Biden administration. I mean, wow.
But wait a minute. It was. Dude,
the Democrats are even out for him. Chucky Schumer and all of Chucky Schumer's well, there's a very good possibility that this was mishandled and when they're not defending him, dude is done.
Time out. He had one of the documents sitting next to his Corvette, and the Corvette was in a locked garage. That's pretty secure.
Right.
In a locked garage.
Yeah, very secure. And then the other thing I have to bring up on this is who thought it was a good idea for Biden to have a think tank? Because that's where the first documents were found.
I think he needs 3 or 4 think tanks.
What brainchild came up with that idea?
I don't know.
When Chucky Schumer and all the bigwig Democrats aren't even trying to defend him, there's problems. Now, I'm going to say I do not think this will keep him from running, though. I do not.
I don't think so either. And I don't know that some people on the Democratic side prefer that it would keep him from running, but it's not going to.
But what I
do
think it does, I do not think it will prevent his old crusty ass from running, but I do think this opens the door more than anything else for other people on the Democratic side to run.
I think if there's anything in there.
This is the thing. Okay, dude, you like literally broke all kinds of security protocol and whatever and all this other stuff. And like, I think this is what opens that door.
I agree. I also believe, and I'm just hearing, we don't know if any of this can be actually authenticated, but the fact that there was documents in there about Ukraine.
Oh no, you love Ukraine. Ukraine's wonderful. He's a great president. He's the bravest person in the world. Go Ukraine. That's you.
Documents that can be tied to Hunter's, to possibly interfering with the fact that Hunter had connections and all these things, which are documented everywhere else. But if those classified documents relate to any of that, that may prevent Joe from running. Would you agree that he would get enough pressure from within the party?
I don't know if they can put enough pressure on the old man. I mean,
I don't know that he can.
Before the midterms, there had to be the most pressure to be like, okay, you're done. You're dumb. You're dumb. Done. Dumb. Done. Done. Then,
yeah,
I don't think. Know. I think he's running. I don't think unless they lock Hunter, if they indict Hunter or something, maybe. I don't know, but so I am not a perfect person. I know we're all shocked, but I'm not perfect. So when I see somebody make a mistake that I have made before, I just don't go like, get a torch and a noose and like, here we go. No. So why can these people not get it? I do not
know.
It's bad.
Brian, I really am
bad.
I'm really fearful, and we must have alluded to this, you or I, on one of the earlier podcasts recently, but I'm concerned about the populace here in our country, and especially the younger generation, and intelligence and common sense and patriotism, things that you would hope are there, but I do not believe are there in the numbers that I would like to see. And the only time, and I'm going to jump back to Joe here for a second, the only thing I've heard him say, and I haven't been watching the news as much maybe as I should recently, the only time he came out to address this is he came out and made the statement, or his response, everyone knows I take classified documents seriously. That's what he says. And then that's enough. I think when mind, when he says that, he thinks everything's fine. They know that I take these things seriously, and anything that they put out there or say, they're just absolute that the public's going to believe it, buy it, and we move on. And I think to some extent they might be right, is what's so discouraging, because they will continue to put out lies like that I would think most people would call bullshit on it, but I don't know that they do. And the few liberals that I get a chance to communicate and question on occasion, they buy right into it. If Joe says he takes documents that are classified seriously, they believe him, and it's gone. It's over with. I call it an intelligence problem on the populace.
This is just, I don't see any way out for him here. Like, I really don't, because like the Dems aren't even defending him. And like every social media outlet is asking the hard questions and all this other stuff. Like, they're not just like going, oh, what's his favorite flavor of ice cream this week? And like homegirl press secretary, she can't handle it. Like, she's literally
your little girlfriend answered nothing today. Nothing.
She
not
didn't
answer any of their questions.
She's not going to make it. She's not. Like, this is
the end of her.
They better bring back Peppermint Patty, circle back Jen Psaki, because this is it for her.
Yeah, she was way better at handling these situations.
Like, flat out asked, are there any, because there's been 3 batches of documents, flat out asked, are there any other documents out there that y'all know of? And she says nothing. 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 Like,
and then,
question
didn't she
happen.
refer them to the? Didn't she refer them to Justice Department and the council?
Walked off the podium.
No, before that, and those people are giving the reporters absolutely nothing. It's a mess.
This is, yeah. And like, again, I I don't even know what to say, where to begin, what to do, but yeah, I don't see any way out for him on this. And like, I haven't got to see any news, but like, now I'm literally sitting here, I've got the TV on mute and the Fox is on, and all the pictures of Hunter, and so I don't know what they're saying, but I can read the thing at the bottom that an ex-Intel agent lied about Hunter's laptop. They knew it was real, and they just lied about it being not unreal, etc. So, like, this is coming back up out after the documents linking whatever. I think they're going to fry somebody.
I think you tie it all together, he may not be able to run if it all ties together. So I don't know. What did you think of that text I sent you earlier about Trump's response to possibility of DeSantis running?
Well, it's like I addressed this earlier, a few, I don't know, months, weeks, whatever ago. Trump has already came out and said that he has information on DeSantis that his wife doesn't have. And what that little, I take it that was your garage basement news people that you sent that from. But anyway,
I found on social media. I don't know who.
But what it says was Trump was asked a question that DeSantis may run, and he said, well, I will handle, if DeSantis decides to run, I will handle him just the way I handled everybody else, which is not going to work out well for Ronnie. It's just not. Like, I just don't see.
I think it's a mess from both directions. I think Trump attacking him like he does, he'll offend some of the moderates that are on
I don't think Trump's going to attack him unless he gets into the race. And to be honest with you, if he does that, then he's asking for it.
Well, it's not like he's avidly opposing Trump. He's simply running for president of the United States.
And I'm going to say again, we all saw how he literally obliterated 19 Republican heavyweights the first time he ran. So we all know how he runs. So I'm going to state again, if Ronnie goes for it, he knows what is in front of him. He gets like the map is there. And I'm
outside of the information that we are unaware of that Trump claims to have, or that he threw out there anyway. I think DeSantis will be harder for Trump to run over. I'm not saying he won't get it done, but he'll be a better adversary than most.
And I will state this again for the 900th time. I think Ron DeSantis is more electable maybe in the general.
No, there's no question he's more electable. And I love Trump's policies to death. I just do.
And I think he could probably be a pretty good president. I'm also going to say what I've said every time we have brought this up. Nobody knows the skeletons in Ronnie's closet. All of the skeletons are out on Trump. There is nothing left. It's all out there. Like, nothing.
They continue to try to create some, but they're there. They're done.
I mean, and again, I think when push comes to shove, you're talking about moderates and all this other stuff. I can give you, and I'm not going to because first off, it's not a Beyond Circus, and secondly, it's not there yet. But like, I can give you several policy things that Ron has implemented in Florida that are way more right wing than Trump ever has been.
And there's something wrong with that?
I think you can go too far. Independence.
I probably would agree with those things. I'm not saying that it gets him elected.
Dale, and I'm thinking, yeah, if you're seen as more right wing than Trump, that's probably not good.
But I don't think he has not offended as many people.
I'm not saying he's offended anybody. I'm talking about when you look at the policy he's implemented.
Yes. Even though I may agree with the policy, it may not.
I'm not saying you can agree, disagree, whatever. You talked about moderates, independents win elections. I am stating that
I'll take either candidate in the White House and be thrilled.
I am stating that I think that he is, and y'all know I'm conservative, whatever, but I think he pushes the limits to right wing, not conservative to right wing.
A wonderful place to be. Just a wonderful place.
Okay, I'm not. I am not right wing. I am conservative.
Let's while we're talking about conservative ideas, the state of Wyoming, and again, I don't know that this will get off the ground, but they did propose a ban on electric cars by 2035.
A ban.
Yep.
They're going to ban them.
Just like California banning the fossil fuel, gas, diesel automobiles. Wyoming thought they'd take the other direction since a lot of, I believe, their economy is based on fracking and fossil fuels, that they thought they would, what's wrong with going that way and banning the electric cars if it doesn't benefit their state?
Okay.
I don't see anything different than banning.
I'm not going to disagree. I just think that this is probably.
I thought it was pretty creative, actually.
Be a little harder to do, but
I think their voting populace would probably do it, but I don't know that it'll get anywhere. But that's interesting, and it continues to blow my mind that all of those that are pushing the electric cars, and I would love to own one. I hear a lot of great things about them, and if I owned one, I would buy a Tesla and support our buddy. However, it just amazes me that they don't understand that most of the electricity that powers the electric car is from the burning of natural gas and coal. How do they miss that step? And anytime you have a process, the more steps you put into it, the less efficient it is. So the fact that we're burning the coal or the natural gas to produce energy to power the car, probably less efficient than taking that directly, that fossil fuel, however you want to look at it, directly into a car. There's nothing about any of this that makes sense. If we had a green energy supply that was truly green, that could actually power all these vehicles, absolutely wonderful. But we just don't have that at this point. And for some unknown reason, we refuse to build state-of-the-art nuclear plants like the rest of the world is doing right now. That is going to be the cleanest energy source that's realistic today and maybe the next 10, 20 years that we can actually utilize, not some fantasy dream that the wind or solar is going to be able to do enough to cover these things. Nuclear power can do that. And maybe we'll come up with something else, but we have to bridge that gap from fossil fuels to electric cars. And we're just not there. We're not ready for that. So I don't know where we go. I'm thoroughly confused.
Okay, are you happy now with your moving to Wyoming? And
well, no, one more thing.
Own an electric car.
Do you know where most of the
I have very important things to say.
China comes into this, the rare minerals to build the batteries. You want China holding the purse strings again?
No, this is why people don't like current events. You just ramble and ramble and ramble and ramble and ramble.
Go. I'm done with current events. I'm done.
Okay, so I have one more current event, and I'm going to try to keep this as PG as possible. But so in a suburb of Nashville called
you can't keep this PG. I know where you're going. You can't. It's impossible.
Lavergne, whatever.
I have nothing to do with this story, nor can I confirm that it even happened.
Oh, it's real. I promise you it's real.
Because you saw it
without a doubt. No, it's on. I have looked it up. I have looked it up.
Where did you look that up at?
Huh? Call Google, dude.
The internet to look it up. You saw it on the internet.
Dude, these are all mainstream media outlets, not the garage basement people reporting this. Anyway.
In the mainstream
suburb of Nashville, Lavergne, I think is how it's pronounced. Anyway, 5 officers have been fired and 3 other ones have been suspended without pay because they were doing things on the job that are as unbecoming of officers. And anybody that's been not living in a hole or a water park like Dale has seen, these are some of the best memes I've ever seen. I'm just telling you, this lady, Megan Hall, who is at the center of this sex scandal, holy hell, the memes are great. So thank you to all the meme makers in the world for them. I really appreciate my Snapchat appreciates it. But see, that was very PG and very clean, Dale.
That was pretty good.
I'm just saying, I'm just keeping it.
But if I would not have visited with you about this earlier, I would have no idea what you're talking about. That's how
Yeah,
PG it was,
because
which
you
is good.
don't.
We'll
Because you have no sense of humor and don't like memes or anything like that. You only like
I
your
have not seen
bargain
one
basement
of
news.
them.
You're on my Snapchat every day. There's been
No.
50.
I think I only get half of your snaps.
No, these were on my story, and you go through my story every day and screenshot it. But no.
I did not have any. I did not correlate anything on your snap to the story. If I were to go back now after being aware of
all the ones with the lady cop, yeah, that's them. Yeah, but anyway. So some BTRJLA news. Again, we're recording Tuesday, but today the national trophies got picked up. We're going to start shipping stuff out. We've got a couple of kids that we're going to present. 2 of the kids and all around their stuff at Fort Worth, but we are getting stuff shipped out and sent out. We're also highlighting some of the national winners on Facebook, and so we'll continue to do that. But again, sign up, sanction, sponsor, do all things BTRJLA, because if y'all have not noticed, I mean, I've been putting the awards up all year long, but I think now that people are actually going to get them and win them, they've just now figured out, oh, these are nice awards. I do not have inexpensive taste when it comes to awards, so I'm going to need y'all to sponsor, and I'm going to need y'all to sign up and sanction so we can continue to give the coolest awards of anybody in Stock Show Nation. But there you go. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for those awards, manufacturers.
T-Bow Fabrications, Tucker Long, he did an awesome job on the trophies. I mean, killed it. He also did the all-around trophy too, the disco ball.
Excellent. Why try Show Fresh H2O? I can answer it if you don't want to.
Why? You're not their water boy. You're not the water boy.
Because muscle is 80% water. And the fact that animals do not acclimate. No, but I am a self-proclaimed water expert.
Yes, you are, without a doubt.
And if animals are in the city and they're not used to chlorinated water, they probably aren't going to drink as much. You don't need to be very scientific about that part of it. It just is what it is. So thank you, Show Fresh H2O, for providing an absolute must-have for the Stock Show families. Put yourself in a better position to succeed by picking up Show Fresh H2O at your local supply trailer and swampfox.com. Thank you for your support of this podcast. It is appreciated.
Thank you, Show Fresh H2O. Dale's still crying that he's not the official water boy. He just won't tell it. He won't be public about it, but it's okay. It's fine.
My. Are you ready?
Fine. Mm-hmm.
The wow factor.
Yee.
Did I come up with this one?
Yes, you did.
Oh, okay.
But actually, I was talking about a show, and then you came up with it. But I am giving you credit for it. But yes, the wow factor.
And the wow factor we hear at all the shows. Sidelines, wow, that one's got the wow factor, or the extras, or you hear judges talk about it, you hear the crowd talk about it, you hear everybody talking about that. Ryan, what does it mean?
Well, I can't speak for other judges because I'm not in their heads. Thank God. That would be exhausting because me being in my head is enough for me and all the voices. But anyway, for me, I think that it is fine when an animal comes in the ring. And I say this a lot at shows because I am fortunate enough to judge so many shows. I think a little bit of me has transgressed or morphed or evolved or whatever. I look for things now that you don't see at shows every day, or that when I see an animal that has parts and pieces that I don't see at the majority of the shows, those wow factor pieces, that impresses me more than probably ever before, because I do get to see so many animals, and it can be a single trait, it can be a combination of traits, it can be how they're fitted or presented. I mean, there's several different ways that I think you can have a wow factor moment in a stock show arena with an animal.
Excellent. I think that's the best explanation you can give, Ryan. And it's going to be a little different for everybody. And for example, when one's got great hair and extremely well presented, that that hits me as some wow factor if I haven't seen very many of those all day long. So I think it depends a little bit on the contemporary group that we're in, whether we're at a county fair or national show or whatever it may be. Because as we get into the more competitive shows, we're going to see a little more and more of that. And so the wow factor, maybe we have to tie 2, 3, 4 of those things together to make it the one that has the most, or the most extras, or the most bells and whistles, however you want to go about it. But it's something that's probably as apparent right now, or as sought after right now as it's ever been that I can remember within the show ring. And there's something also that I would like to bring into play here. A lot of times, and it can be a lot of different things, there are a lot of wow factor things that hit us hard that likely are a disadvantage in the real world production system.
Oh, sweet mother of Jesus.
And I'm guilty of it. I have never hidden the fact, for example, in our goats, I take them a completely different direction than my philosophy on breeding and judging cattle. I shoot for as much wow factor, as much just when it hits that ring, that judge is going to be drawn to that one because we haven't seen one like that come in the ring all day. So I'm guilty of it. And Ryan, we were picturing goats today for sale coming up here at the end of January, and we leave several of the best prospects as bucks and allow them to grow out to about sale time. So they're probably 30 to 50 pounds, somewhere in that range. So hopefully we can better evaluate. We take the hair off, slick them all the way down, and decide, okay, do we want to keep them a buck or not? And there's one down in the barn today that once he was shorn off, he's probably as expressively muscled, as shapely, as freak-necked, as shaggy-legged, as cocky in terms of his carriage around the ring, around the pin, all of those things as any that we've produced. And yet we're still on the bubble whether we're going to keep him or not. Why?
Because you're nuts.
I mean, there's a lot of things there, but a lot of times it's, I guess what I'm getting at, it's hard to get those wild out there, wow factor, unique traits that are hard to make. It's hard to get a lot of those and still keep all the basics intact and right. They're just difficult to breed for. And that's why we appreciate them so much when we see them. Is why I appreciate them so much, because I know how difficult it is to genetically put something together like that. It just doesn't happen very often. And this buck that I'm talking about, or buck prospect, he's probably not as good in his top line as where I'd ideally want him to be, but he does have A, B, C, and D that will just make you stand back and say, oh, that thing is out there, way out there. The question is, do you give up a little bit of something else to get all those wow factors? I don't know.
No, I mean, I think what you said earlier about depends on what situation you're in, whether you're at a county show or a smaller jackpot show, or you're at a big national type show. And, I just did the semis, Cattlemen's Congress, and the quality in that show was just tremendous. Like almost every class, at least 4 deep. I mean, wow, presented, top notch, very, 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 very good animals that it was just very hard to find much wrong with them. In some of those classes, it went way down, like 8 or 9 in a class. And so when the quality is that good, and so many of them have a wow part or piece, maybe it doesn't, hit you quite as hard because they're standing out there with good animals. But like, again, heifer that wins purebred deal goes on to win supreme, and she was in the toughest class of the day, by far the only class I rewalked. But there was never a doubt in my mind that she was going to start it. It was, where do we go after her? They just come in and they hit you like that. And even in that stiff a competition in the deepest class of the day, and a just tremendous show, there was still that one. And another one, when we first started in the percentage semi show, there was a class of 4 heifer calves. I think it was class 3, probably. Class 3 or 4, I can't remember exactly. There were 4 heifer calves in that class. But that one, as good as those 4 were, and there was another handful of them very good, but these 4 were like, they came to win the calf division. They all end up in the same class. That one was still the one. She went on to be reserve percentage, but I think the setting is a big thing for it. But talking about your buck and what do you give up and whatever, I think when I judge, at least, there are several times that maybe an animal has a piece or two, a wow factor piece or two, but then there's also something that really needs to be changed. And so I guess for me, and I can use the perfect example. When I did the Sandhills Odessa steer show, I thought the calf that won, the steer that won, he wins by handily. But I thought there were half a dozen that, as long as you talk them right, you can justify them to be reserve. The steer that I land on to win the horns and be reserve grand is a calf that I said in class, I don't know if this calf draws you in or he has a wow factor about him, but there is nothing that I need to change on that animal. The reserve polled, one of the stoutest animals in the show, had a little chest, a little shorter neck. And so, again, it's going to depend on who's judging. And, we said everything is genetics and environment. That's even the judge. But in that instance, I guess I am one that I want all the wow. But also, if the ones that have the wow have something that I need to see more than just modified. If there's something I need to change about that animal, there's lots of things that you say, in an ideal world, we might tweak this. But if there's something I need to change on an animal, and then there's another animal there that may not have that wow factor, but there's nothing I need to change, well, I've proven what I'm going to do right there in that scenario right there.
Agreed. And I think you hit on a good point. I believe the more animals or the more shows you're judging or the more experienced you become in the judge's arena or as a livestock breeder around that species every single day, that wow factor becomes more important. It's better able to get your attention, or you're more appreciative maybe of it. And you talked about that earlier. I think everybody's wow factor is a little bit different. To me, if we have an animal that comes in the ring with some arrogance, some great shag, professionally presented, looks like a show pony trotting around the ring, that is where I'm at. And as long as all the other fundamentals are there, it becomes very simple. It's similar to the show, the Simmental show at Congress you talked about. I think that female had a lot of wow factor, but she also had no issues. I mean, everything was in one. And when you talk about putting all the fundamentals into play and you've covered that basis, and then you can put those extras on it, that's where it becomes easy. And that's where you get really excited about these very unique creatures, because as difficult as it is to breed these, to feed and manage, to get all of those things, to get those few elite ones, it seems like the more risk you take, the more wow factor in those breeding decisions. With that risk comes other problems sometimes, and you're really kind of shooting for that grand slam or that home run on that deal, where we could breed animals that are very complete and very fault free. Some people call them complete. Some people call them a little bit plain. It's easier when you don't attach the freak neck, when you don't have the extra shag on the legs, or you don't have that really high neck attachment. Some of those things that give an animal that wow factor, arrogance in the arena. If you don't have that, it's easier to have everything else maybe come together in place. So it's to me, every judge is going to be a little bit different about it. But while we're on it, Ryan, what is the difference? You hear some judges say, okay, I'm going to use this one because he's so complete. The next person comes in, puts him third in class. This is just a little bit too plain for me.
Yeah, I think it's individual to each judge, but I think there is a line between complete or I do not like the word complete. I'm just gonna be honest, and I don't use it in reasons, and probably because it's just been used like 60 billion times in reasons throughout the world. So I don't like the term complete. What I will say is this solid is the best word to describe this animal to me. And again, everything's there, everything's right, muscle, structure, all this other stuff, and yet still has some look. But maybe that's not, the stoutest one. Maybe that's not the most flamingo necked one. But everything is there and definitely still show ring oriented, still has more than an abundance of muscle, moves good, all that other stuff. But maybe there's not just something striking about that animal. I'll say that animal is solid. Now, where I think we go over, and I'm just going to, it doesn't matter what species it is. I think where we go to leave the solid area and go more to the plain is body shape. Everything's just nice, or maybe just average or above for me. That's where I like, if everything is just kind of a little above average or whatever, then maybe that one borders on me being plain, because while everything is above average, we are at a level in this industry where above average just ain't going to cut it anywhere. And so I think that is where I get in to more of the plain. And it's not just a look, it's also they can be plain in their muscle shape or plain in the rib shape, things like that. And so I think that's the deal. It's where they're at on the sliding scale. If they're if everything is good and more than above average, or they're just right there on the line.
No, I agree. And I think that line is very fine. I think if you took a large group of judges and had them describe the differences, that fine line is going to be drawn in different levels or different heights. And this one, this is where they become complete or solid versus this one's just too plain. So I think it's moving. It's kind of like that moving target a little bit. It's part of that. So it's interesting. There's one thing that I wanted to bring up here, because let's say we've got a pretty good looking, let's say a solid animal, maybe a little bit better than that even, Ryan, that's impeccably sound on those feet and legs and super flexible in their joints. That becomes a wow factor to me, because I don't see that many animals that are just that incredibly flexible in the show industry. So it can be a lot of different things to a lot of different people.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the most, I don't want to say underrated, but probably the more judges don't look at that as a wow factor. And I do, just like you, because again, when, and I'm not like, I have said in reasons before, this one is very, very sound and good in terms of angles, but it needs to be, because it's also too light muscled. So there's no reason for that one to not be sound. Do you understand what I'm saying, Dale? I mean, but
Absolutely.
when you have those that have the extra stoutness and all the things, and then they just get out there and it's effortless and comfortable, and they just do all the things that you very rarely see. Yeah, that's a wow moment for me. And so that's why a lot of my terms that everybody thinks are so cool or whatever, like legs like a high school cheerleader, moves like a jungle cat stalking his prey, those things, because when that happens, it is a wow moment for me. And I think it's something that a lot of people don't appreciate as much. I mean, they just, oh, well, that one's sound, and rock on. But I mean, I think that is a big wow factor for me, because of all of the stuff that we see, you're going to see several that have really cool necks or freaky fronted and high tying neck set. You're going to see a lot that are stout, burly, heavy muscle, dense, all of those things. The percentage of animals that you see that are truly in the show ring, truly comfortable and effortless in the way they handle themselves, I think it's by far and away the smallest percentage.
Absolutely. Effortless is the best way to describe that. And I think this better defines the wow factor that we're talking about. I think it comes down to that unique, and because we talk about this effortless, impeccable flexibility and movement being very rare, rare equals wow. And the more animals you see and the more you're in the breeding trenches or out judging or whatever it may be, all of a sudden you start realizing that, wow, there are not that many out there. Consequently, that's some things that get your attention and are appreciated, provided everything else is in place.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, I think that's definitely it. And again, like what you or I think is the biggest wow factor may be completely different from somebody else, and that doesn't make our opinions right and their opinions wrong, or vice versa. It's just how it is. But I do think the reason that I liked this topic so much, and we haven't really discussed it, is I think that something that happens now, probably more than ever, is we might get infatuated with one that has a wow piece. But then again, like I was saying earlier, there's also something significant that needs to be changed. And so I at least from what I have viewed, I think that we're probably focusing. I'm not saying y'all all know that I like the freaky ones without a doubt. I mean, like I just said at the county show tonight, this one's is more extra and exaggerated, and if y'all haven't noticed, so am I. So I should gravitate to those, and I do. But I do think that we may be approaching a place where the wow factor is winning out over maybe animals in the show ring that don't have that, but are better in almost every other way. I mean, that probably didn't say that right, but
I think the level of competitiveness we're starting to see. It used to be, we don't have to go back that many years, you'd hit that wow factor in a few traits. Well, there was usually problems in the other traits. I think we're getting to the competitiveness level in the show ring that, wow, they are fundamentally right, and they have those extras that really grab you. So I think everything's just continuing to elevate. I'm not saying that, just like the buck I'm talking about, he has so many of those wow factor traits, and there's just one or two little things I want to tweak about him, so he's on that line whether we're going to keep him or not. But I think we're progressing where we're basically building the fundamentals correct and then attaching the wow factor rather than just putting wow factor pieces together. So that's interesting. You said you're a great example. What would you say? You're different. You're unique. You're whatever. Ryan, you are the wow factor. No question, a lot of wow factor there, and you don't always fit together quite right. You're crazy.
Oh, well,
would be the best way to put it.
I appreciate that very much.
At least the neurons aren't always they're connecting too quickly, or they're doing something to give you some incredible abilities, but also some craziness, which is it's self-admitted by you most of the time.
I have never said I was sane or normal.
No, I just didn't want people to think I was picking on you for calling you crazy. It just is what it is. I want to talk a little bit about, and I don't know if the word county fair or county shows is appropriate. Let's say smaller shows or less competitive shows. I find myself looking for those, what Ryan doesn't want to hear, complete or solid animals that have fewer problems, because we just don't always have those elites to grab a hold of. When I don't have that upper echelon of stock in front of me, I tend to change a little bit, or adjust, I should say, in terms of where I'm going. And it's usually trying to land on those that have the basics and maybe take the basics just a little bit further, because there just aren't the wow factors. Can you explain that any better, Ryan?
I think that's what I was trying to say earlier, is that like, and maybe I didn't state it correctly, but like that's where I wasn't talking about, the national major shows or state fairs, but that's what I was saying. Like maybe at the county fair level or some of the smaller jackpot shows level, I'm seeing more wow factor with problems win than the good, solid, complete ones. I hate that word. I can't even
Got
believe it came out of my mouth.
That makes sense, and I think you're just adapting to what environment you're in, what stock obviously are coming in front of you, and then every judge is going to have their own opinion. All those things are there, but I hope that this helps define when you hear about this one has that wow factor, or hit me with a presence as soon as it came in the ring, or I'm going to go when they're talking that when the judge is talking about that champion lineup. Well, this one hit me the hardest when it came in. More times than not, that we're alluding to that wow factor that grabs you pretty hard and draws you in. So I hope that's better understood after this particular episode, anyway.
Yeah, and I think it's something that we haven't discussed previously, and it's definitely a factor out there in all levels of shows right now, and something that I think it would be interesting, or I guess I think it will be interesting if there are any comments on social media or messages sent in what other people's takes are on it, because I think you would get a variety of different responses to this or opinions on this topic, because I think there's going to be some people that like all the wow in the world, and there's going to be a lot of people, or just as many people, they're going to be like, nope, I think that they just need to be good. So, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I'll see something on social media and they'll talk about, how they're tired of seeing the geek necked ones or what, all the stuff like that. And so I think it's I think it is a very, maybe, I think it's an interesting topic, but I also think it could be somewhat of a controversial topic, maybe. But
I think with that many variations of opinion, it's going to be a little controversial. And I can use myself, and I alluded to it earlier. When I'm selecting and or breeding goats, I'm going to push the envelope on the wow factor, because goats have not been bred for show livestock near as many generations as other livestock, or show species, I should say. And it's unique still in the goats to get to that point. And I think it's a challenge. It's something, to me as a breeder, I really strive to get those fundamentals there, and then take it as far on the wow factor as you can, because it hasn't been done yet. We haven't gotten that far yet. So I get excited about that, and I'll compromise. And we talk about some of these things that we're selecting for in the show ring going against the real world or practical animal production. And I'm going to tell you right now that a lot of the things that we're selecting for in the market goat weather-based show ring, those are not practical everyday production traits that we would want to implement in a commercial operation ever. And on the other side, on the cattle side of things, when I'm making breeding decisions or judging cattle, or just talking about cattle, I'm probably as fundamental in terms of feet and legs and flexibility of joints and doability in terms of just some body and ease of fleshing, and everything's gotta function, and they've got to be able to survive without being pampered all of the time. But once we have that, if you can throw all of those extra wow factors on there, I'm all in. But for me, I'm probably a little bit of a hypocrite, because I'm placing more real world fundamentals in the cattle side, and on the goat side, it's just let's go full out towards the show ring and give as much wow factors as we can. So there's going to be variation from person to person. Heck, I'm not even the same direction from one species to another.
you call me crazy.
But I acknowledge it. I accept it. I own it. I think you might have brought it out prior to me owning it, but I own it on a regular basis now.
Well, we've talked. I mean, you've talked a lot about goats, and we've talked. I talked a lot about two shows that I was judging cattle. For you, in terms of a sheep, what do you think is one of the greatest wow factors for sheep?
To me, it's easy. It's that lamb that comes in with that arrogance and holds itself together impeccably on the move and can move really, really well, because there's so many of these sheep and we've got such. I mean, they're
That are
doing a
crippled.
great. Yes, they're doing a great job of making sheep that you can put a good showing on. And when you get those sheep stuck, if you only saw them stuck, it'd be pretty damn hard to sort them. It just would, because they're so good at getting those sheep to look good on the brace. It's that one that comes in and looks so good on the move. That's where I'm at. And that's the geek neck. That's everything coming to place. The only thing I would probably be a little different than some is I don't have to have the heaviest muscled one. And after we get to a certain point in muscle, more is not necessarily a huge advantage. Once I have enough muscle that I feel very comfortable that this one has plenty, then all of a sudden it's all about skeleton. It's all about the wow factor. It's all about the other things. So for some people, that monster ass coming in there is maybe the wow factor. I don't know. That doesn't do it for me, particularly in the sheep arena.
Yeah, I think for me in the sheep deal, because just like you said, the look is all there. They have them so heavy muscled and stout and all this. I think definitely the wow factor for me is one that can really get out and go like you really want them to, because I don't see that nearly as much.
No, we've put a lot more emphasis on breeding crazy amounts of shag and a lot of other things that are really cool and sell well, but we haven't focused a lot, especially on those hind legs and that hip. It's just hard. You don't see that many of them. I think the sheep world's better now than it was a couple of years ago, that I don't see quite as many sheep pushing their top on the move as I did at one time. And Ryan, I'm seeing fewer people pushing that top down while the judges are looking. Maybe it's wishful thinking. I'm not sure.
And because we haven't talked a whole lot about hogs in this episode, what is the wow factor for you in the hoggy world?
I think you and I are probably going to be the same on this one, or close as well. And while at Phoenix waiting to get to the backdrop in the open cattle show, they were taking hog pictures, and these things were blown apart. I mean, so wide up front, so wide behind. For somebody like me that is not down in the trenches in the hog world, I call some of those that were up towards the top on the gilt shows, all I got to see, were maybe almost pushing that outside of themselves. But just obviously what hit those judges hard is just that openness, that mass, that base width, all of those things, where I can probably sacrifice a little bit of that and not go quite as far in terms of just blown way out there. But if you envision where that chest floor is in that hog, I want to come from that chest floor straight up 6-7 inches, and then I want the neck to come straight out and up, where a lot of times that base of the neck ties right kind of into that chest floor, and you can crank that head up to make them look okay. But those animals, every time you crank the head up that high, we get over in our front end, a little hard to move out of that front end. But if you've got that one, that neck truly is just, there's a total separation between where that chest floor is. We come straight up and boom, the neck jets out from there. That front end, and there's no question to me on the hog thing. If you give me that kind of front end and you put true flexibility in that front knee, that pastern, that rear hock and pastern, I'm all in. You got me right there at the gate.
I can't believe we're agreeing this much. It's very scary, but I think that front end, that look, that, because that's what you see coming out first. But and for me, more than anything in the hogs is, I get what you're saying about flexibility, but like, I think one of the rarest things to see in a hog, because they're so stout and so massive and all those things now, is one that is truly comfortable in motion. I want flexibility, all those things, but very, I mean, it is a rarity to see one that has all the stoutness, all the power, all the presence, all that stuff, and then just be very comfortable in terms of and effortless in how it moves. So that would be, I guess,
and I think that comfortable and effortless, that's the best way to get it across, I think. And I'm sure I prioritize it way higher than most, and I'm not out there raising hogs, and I know how I do have an idea on how difficult it is. I know how opened up they are. I know how massive they are. It's going to be hard to do the effortless move it thing. So I guess it's just a preference. I would rather sacrifice a little bit of that because I don't think we can. I mean, they've got them so wide and so opened up. It's just almost impossible to make a hog effortless in its movement at that level. When you have one, it's rare. That becomes wow.
Absolutely. Well, there you go.
I think it's time for some question and answer, Ryan. I know you've been waiting for it. The first one's pretty easy.
Uh-huh.
This one comes to us from Tyler. Hello, Dale and Ryan. This is a loaded question, and I apologize. Question is, in the cattle ring, do judges prefer cable halters or leather? For example, a Charlet is a white cable halter, and a Charlet is a white cable halter better than a traditional black leather halter, since the white cable blends in. Thank you. I'm not sure how that was loaded.
Question. I'm gonna be real, just 100% honest. I don't notice the halters unless it is like something. Like, I mean, like there are some that they get the real thick, like old school, like when the thick nose, what leather ones or whatever, or the ones with blade. I put it this way: unless the halter is distracting, which the normal leather show halter or a cable halter is not, I never notice the halters.
So it does not matter to you.
No, because I don't know.
It does not matter to you at all.
No, it doesn't matter because I'm telling you, I don't notice those things. I mean, because it just, unless it's distracting, I am not focused on what type of halter is on the animal.
And I'm at the same place. I'm going to theorize here a little bit and use more on the goat side, a little bit on the cattle side, but I believe those cable halters probably give you a little more control. So to me, it's more about that animal's attitude and which halter they're going to present themselves better with, rather than necessarily the look.
And I think this, again, I don't know how this was a loaded question, but I think whether it is no matter what it is, whether it's a goat or sheep or calf or whatever works best for that particular animal, let's say, have the most control, lead the best, all those things, do that. The only thing that I'm going to caution you on is there are still some shows, and this is primarily in Texas, that those wire halters are not allowed.
Got it. They are not.
So,
wow.
And use whatever works the best for that animal that's within the rules. Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. Well, Tyler, I hope that helps out. The next one comes from Dave, and I actually pulled these off hours in advance today, Ryan, not while we were discussing the main topic. This one is a little more complicated, so we're going to let you tackle this one completely. I know you guys have addressed the illegal enhancing of show stock in the past, and it is appreciated. I wanted to pose the question to get your thoughts on how judges, even at the national level, can use animals with extra bumps and lumps that are not natural back in their leg and hip that can be seen clearly even in just the champion's pictures. How is this possible?
Look, I'm going to say this again. And first off, until you were out there under the bright, shiny lights, calling shots and all this other stuff, let's not be so quick to judge. Judge the judge. Okay? And also, I mean, I have told y'all my standpoint on this, my take on this, etc. If I am not 100% certain, and not only by visual appraisal, but also by handling that animal, that I can know with 100% certainty that animal has been altered, I cannot, in good conscience, not judge the animals for what they are out there. And that's just it. And I'm not the buck stops with each individual judge. I on plenty of occasions have said this one's not natural in handle, or something along those lines. And put those animals not up at the top of the class and all that stuff. So I have done it, but I was certain. But the other thing is, and I'm just going to put this out there, and again, this isn't going to be super popular opinion. I think that you need to take that question and granted, it is a problem and an issue, and we have addressed it. You need to take that to the show managers, because in the end, those animals get in the ring, therefore they are supposed to be judged. It is show management's responsibility to police the rules. That's my take on it.
Okay, I like what you talked about there, except for it's not realistic for the show managers. It just isn't, even less so probably than the judge. And as you explained, it's hard as a judge. And I think, Dave, I can throw it out there, and I'm not necessarily and I'll give you where I.
How is it not show management's responsibility?
Well, I don't think they're even going to go
the rules.
I don't think they're even going to go look at the sheep before they go in the ring.
No, I'm not saying
normally.
You're missing my point completely, sir.
Okay, well, how do you keep them out of the ring if you haven't even seen them?
Because if you do that and you get caught, therefore you should not get to show again.
Agreed. It doesn't always seem to work that way, but yes.
But they don't do that, do they? No,
I see.
Don't.
So you'd rather you're just saying the show should police this by having a carcass evaluation or drug testing.
They've got the rules there.
I thought you were just talking about that show manager visually looking at them and saying this.
No, they have almost all of he's talking about a national show. They have rules in place. Drug testing, all the things. And I am going to say again, being a kid that went through the most public scandal in the world of this nature, I don't want any kid to go through that. But I am also going to say again, and this is just the truth, until people are scared that they're going to get kicked out and there are going to be consequences for those actions, nothing is going to change.
Agreed 100%.
Y'all can just say whatever the hell you want to, and that's it.
That is. So Dave, I'm going to say that there's a lot of reasons, and Ryan hit on some of them, and I like his point there at the end. It is going to be there unless there's consequences or the fear of consequences, and I think that works as a deterrent at that point. I think that some judges are not comfortable that they're sure what it is. I think when it's a situation with a young person on that animal that obviously is totally unaware of what's going on, then you start thinking, well, this kid doesn't know anything about it. How do we handle this in the microphone? How do you explain it?
He's talking about that. How is the judge supposed to know which kid knows their animals might have been altered and which one doesn't? You ain't got no Madame Cleo crystal ball out there for that.
No, and I'm gonna throw one more out there, Ryan. I'm gonna pick directly on the lamb and goat arena. I'm just gonna throw it out there, and it is what it is, and you can agree. I don't care. Okay, I'm afraid if I get myself into these positions a little bit, that at some of these shows, that when you start throwing out the ones that you have a pretty high, and I'm not going to go to 100%, but I usually feel pretty confident, and there's going to be a lot of gray area there that I don't touch. But when I'm confident they've been screwed with, all of a sudden you pull those out of play. Guess what you have left, Ryan?
Probably not a whole.
There's going to be judges that fear they're look pretty stupid in that backdrop picture because they don't have that good one to take the picture with, and worry that maybe we're not going to get another show because of that perception and things as such. But unfortunately, at some shows, it's bad enough where you pull those out. Sometimes there's not as much left as what that particular judge would like to stand with at the backdrop. So there's a lot of reasons.
And I'm also going to say you find this mythical unicorn judge that can tell without a shadow of a doubt which ones have been altered, which ones have not been altered, all this other stuff, particularly in a junior show setting. if you take that animal and run that animal to the middle of the bottom of the class and do it every single time that you think there has been an ethics violation, you're going to have to get on the mic and justify this somehow. So you're literally going to accuse every single kid on the mic of doing that?
Well, I'm with you. And I think
that's not going to be just a whole bunch of rainbows and butterflies.
It's not. And I think there's no question. There's some that take it so far, it's obvious. It just is. And I have to say, I see some of those get used sometimes. I don't know if the judge doesn't care or they're unaware, or I don't know for what reason, but there are some that are absolutely obvious. The problem is those that are good at it and they don't get stupid and take it too far, it's impossible to call it out. It just like what you're saying. You can call a certain percentage of them out with in my mind 100% confidence.
Yes, that's what I said. I said it from the start. There are times where it is obvious both by visual and animal, and when that is the case, I called them out. Yes, but
to me, it's easy when you look at the muscle shape back in that leg and hip, where muscles come together is where we call that expression or those seams. And biologically speaking, they run in a certain manner, a certain pattern. And when there's just bumps and lumps in random areas, that is not how it works from a biological sense. But the ones that are good at it and intelligent about it, good luck.
And then again, we're running way too long on this question, but I am also going to say, because a lot of us that do this have talked about situations and instances and all that, and there is just as many people that are of the theory you are there to judge the stock that come into the ring, probably more than the ones that, like, when it is obvious, probably need to act accordingly. And
it's much easier to just judge the stock in the ring.
It's just what it is. And so I am going to say again, I think this is a very good question. I'm glad that question is out there. I don't think it's nearly as easy as he posed the question as a judge. And also on this whole topic, until people know there are going to be consequences for their actions and fear that their child will be in that situation, none of this is going to change. Period.
Agreed completely. You know what, Ryan, as we're talking about this, and I've brought this up before as well, most of these adaptations, infractions, illegal manufacturing, whatever you want to call it, has to do with muscle. Would you agree? Majority of the time. We're trying to put more muscle in them, more rack shape, more loin, more leg, more hip, all of those things. So I go back and we've got these lambs and even goats now at the top end, so muscular.
You're just like hating on the lamb and goat people.
Well, no, because I don't see it I'm not saying it's not happening, but rarely happen. The people aren't doing these same things to the pigs, and obviously they are in cattle. And in my mind, you can't make I think you can make a larger difference on the lambs and goats.
I'm gonna need you to come instead of going to the goat show at San Antonio this year. You're gonna come to watch the steer show at a slick shirt.
Okay.
And then you're gonna have a whole different opinion.
Yes, I'm sure. I get it. So I'm going to come back to this. So I think there's one thing you can do, and it's logical to me that if we don't continue to select for crazy amounts of muscle, let's take them to whatever level you deem acceptable, and there's going to be 20% of the show or better that fit that. Sort them on the things that are real, the skeleton, the movement, the arrogance, the wow factors, all of those other things, and particularly how they're put together and how they proportion, rather than just nothing wrong with more muscle. I'm not going to say that, because then we're trying to say we can pick and choose which ones are enhanced and which ones aren't. But rather than give them equal amounts of credit every time you make them another inch wider, let's get to a certain point as a judge, and enough is enough. More doesn't necessarily gain them any more points, where that one that's the best in terms of flexibility and carrying itself around the ring and holding itself together on the move, and that neck comes out higher and that top line's really good. all of a sudden, I think we end up with higher quality animals rather than more of a single trait, more mass that continues to encourage the illegal aspects that everybody's bringing up and concerned about. Okay, long enough on that question, Ryan?
Yeah, I would say so. It's probably the longest question and answer history of the damn world.
We could go about as long on this one, but we're not going to. We're going to try to hold back.
Shit.
You might go off.
Okay.
This one comes from Andy. I have heard a great deal about the Texas Majors and was wondering if the
we're not
junior
answering
market
this
shows,
question at all because we're going to have a whole podcast output on Texas Majors. So therefore, we will cover it.
Let him at least finish the question. Let him at least. I'm going to finish the question. I have heard a great deal about the Texas Majors and was wondering if the junior market shows at the Texas Majors are more competitive than the national shows.
Now I am going to tell you without a doubt they are.
Wow. I didn't think you'd go quite that. I knew what your answer would be. I just didn't.
Species for species. No, they're not a doubt. Look at the sheer numbers, Dale.
I'm not arguing. Am I arguing with you?
No, there's not. And this is not me bragging because I'm a Texan or any of that hocus pocus bullshit. No, no. All you got to go do is watch one, and there's not a question.
So I can take it from a,
and I'm talking about the big. I mean, all the majors are competitive, but I am focusing more on like the big three. But anyway,
okay. And junior market species, what we're talking about. I've been, and again, I don't get to, because of the rotations. I usually just get to see the lambs and the goats. Occasionally we'll be down there for the hogs or the cattle and things like that. But I've been to a lot of Texas Majors, not as many as Ryan has been to, but every year for 15 plus years, the majority of them. And I can only speak primarily to those two species. And we are going to do a podcast. Ryan wanted to do one just on Texas Majors. So I'm going to hold back considerably here. The sheer numbers is overwhelming. But there's also an argument with those sheer numbers. There's a lot of them that would not be, that are not in that competitive era. And to me, and Ryan will disagree with this, the top 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, we always have those elites that kind of present themselves. Sometimes only 1 or 2 at a show. I think when we just look at not how deep a class is. So you can take this question a lot of ways. If you ask me what are some of the deepest classes, it's easy. I'm going to run with Ryan's question or answer just there. But when I stop and say just those top 2 or 3 animals total and compare them to the top 2 or 3 at a national show, I don't see as big of a difference there. And I think it bounces back and forth. If you interpret the question that way, if you say, where's the best 200 market lambs or market goats? Is it at Houston or is it at Louisville or wherever? Then guess what? I probably start leaning back the other direction. But we'll have a whole episode on this, correct, Ryan?
Yeah.
Good question. And kind of read our mind or read your mind where we want to go. And I think that'll be a good topic, Ryan, because as we stated before, those that aren't there, it's hard to comprehend.
And I will go in more detail and I will prove you wrong in every way when we get there. But anyway, next.
Okay. And then again, I think it's in the definition is where I'm at in terms of which is more competitive. If we talk about the 100th animal or the grand animal or whatever it may be. With that, Ryan, I don't think we forgot anything. That was 3 questions, wasn't it?
Surely to God.
I don't even remember the first one now because we got so lost on the second one. But I think we're good. Thank you, Ryan. I think another good episode. Hopefully the listeners will enjoy. And until next week, be safe.
Y'all come back now, you hear?